Well, here I am. It's always so interesting. It's not the top of the hour yet, so I'm just going to wait. You can wait with me if you like. Our gathering point. Just take a breath, and it's the top of the hour. So I took notes last night because I didn't want to forget anything that had been on my mind for the past, I guess, 2 weeks today. And if you would grant me the grace for me to tell you at least one story, one short story. The reason I took notes is because I have the effect of being oxygen deprived, where you can't walk very long without losing your breath, and your logic system is a little on the it doesn't quite process at the level my brain function is used to. And even trying to gather my wits about me to have the conversation today is on top of let's just say, a week of concentration on my physical body, where my spirit dwells, and not really trying to frame anything to teach or to provide for others. But I want to start right before well, maybe it is the other story, I don't know. I know I'm unusual. I'm glad I made it this far, because I get to live the reality that I suspected was real when I was young, but didn't know was real until I broke the barriers in my mind and in my consciousness that kind of took me out of hell and put me in paradise, you could say, regardless of circumstances. Some people call that enlightenment. I think it's way too lofty a word. It is definitely, I am aware, no doubt about it. But what comes with that is a responsibility. Misinformation is not a good idea for me. Toting my own opinion, not pleasurable, not interesting to me. But life experience, you got me there. I'm game. Your life experience, my life experience, what we learn from that life experience, what we learn to be true, to thine own self be true, to thine own self be true. So for me, I'll tell you a couple of short stories, one of which you've probably heard before, because maybe some of you both, because it's the purpose of why I have a sacred space for rest and courage, and why it won't go away. Even if I'm alone, a being on a hill, it will not go away. Because I can feel the threads of the internet. Here comes a plane. My friend in the morning. I can feel the geomagnetic grid. I can feel it pulse and try to sort out the incredible brainwave translating into radio waves, into digital translating into all these waves that we think we're just talking to each other on this um, vehicle, whatever your vehicle is today. But actually, so much more is going on. We're electromagnetically patterning the electromagnetic grid. If we happen to understand brain waves, alpha, gamma, delta, theta, gamma, O, then we know now that the higher brain waves affect the vibrational field and feed out into creation. So you could say that it piggybacks, merges, melds, makes love with the electromagnetic field. They work hand in hand. They work as a whole system response. So I'll be keeping this Facebook site. It started because of 2 visitations, which I hope you go back and watch I don't know how they're cataloged. I don't know how Jackie's done that, but there are 2 documents. There's 1 document and 1 story, but they're both in a document. One is when I was downloaded something I have termed a matrix of reality that talked about these times. And one of the things that being said to me, that reality will fall at a heap at your feet. Reality as you know it will fall as a heap at your feet, or as you have known it maybe. So I would say the last 2 weeks reality has, as I've known it, or as I've been told it, has fallen as a heap at my feet. Then the second was an actual travel. I actually physically, or I don't know how to explain it, my auric body stepped out of my physical body and walked into another reality, very much like contact, and was told about these times, which are rapidly upon us. But both messages, it doesn't matter your belief system about whether they're real or were they the fantasies of someone who thinks she's a mystic and thinks she's a psychic and thinks that she's otherworldly and thinks that she's paranormal. But she can't possibly be that, could she? But it didn't matter. It set my course for sure. It had me be the background of every piece of work I do, because the one message is be informed and don't be afraid. Be informed about who you are. Learn thyself. Discover thyself. Become aware of thyself as thyself. Your unique and essential aspect of creation. So I plotted my course. There's one other story that hasn't been told, and maybe if you're interested, I might tell it next week, about my journey to Acoma, my 2 journeys to Acoma. It's an Indian tribe in southern New Mexico. It too is part of this learning. Very little staying alive and becoming excited about life and being thrilled about my own existence has come from the mainstream. Not from school, not from religion, except for Papa Cantu, who was a mystic and talked about dragons. It's all come from what connects us to life and has us exist as whole. And I mean that very literally. The conversations that I have had that have given me substance have always made me feel connected to life, not caught between my 2 ears. And the first fundamental thing we talk about in teaching the creation exercises at the LOC-Institute is to only listen to thoughts that are life-enhancing and life-generating. And just ignore the ones that are life-defeating and They just come from two different kinds of reality, both existing parallel to each other. They both exist at the same place at the same time. They're right there. It's just your tuning, how you tune in. And sometimes your system won't let you tune in right because it's become compromised or afraid, and trauma's built in it. So the creation exercise is reduce the trauma effect on the body, on the mind, and allow all these waves, patterning waves of consciousness to stream out, to connect into the greater grid of which we are all a part, most of which human beings have forgotten. So that being told me to not be afraid during this time, that to find our story, to be part of our story. That both means your individual story and others that seem to register and resonate with a larger story of which in our own individuality we can all be a part. Basically of what connects us to life and has us exist as whole. Fairly simple, don't you think? I also want to include two other characters in my play. Today, my one-woman show. One is Sarah Harper. Sarah Harper, I lost my home. I wouldn't live someplace where I couldn't befriend the baby bears that came to me and asked me to be their mother while they matured into their adulthood. A true story. And so Sarah has a kingdom. And in her kingdom, the deers come, they bring their babies to her. And now they have a fox, a mama fox, with her 4 pups that hang out in their grounds. And I want to introduce her because she's not very social. And a lot of people probably don't like her and find her difficult to be with socially. She doesn't fit very well with human society. But she fits well. Oh yeah, and the bear. Don't forget the bear that started coming around after I visited a week or so ago. 2 weeks ago. I have 2 weeks of an empty life. A busy life, but just not in the interface with human beings. And now the bear comes around. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. So she holds that space for me. I have blue jays that come in my door and eat the rice off the floor, mom and dad, and go back out. We've got so caught in the human world, we don't realize that human is only a small part. Human society is only a small part of what we are. Human beings been redacted. The other character in my one-woman show is Saima, Her Holiness Saima. You can deal with that ever how you choose. But when I met Saima, I was a lot heavier than I am now. And when she met me, she gave me a jewel. I still have it, a gemstone. She told me I needed to hang on to it for about 2 years, wear it, because it was so toxic that if I would be dead and I needed to live. I had an important thing to do here and it wasn't my time. So for about 6 months I was deathly ill. And not in a medical way, in a sweating, sick, feverish, toxicity purge way. And then I made somebody pick me up at the airport who's now, Lucinda Hanover, who's now Ma's successor, my best friend, and who I introduced to Ma, and who the first reading before I ever knew Lucinda, I said to her, you know, your path is spiritual. She was a corporate executive, what's he called? Still is a consultant for major corporations around the world. But Saimai back then was already at work on the biological awakening of human beings. So I got educated really, really well, being one of Ma's top master teachers. And sometimes I got to take a table by myself when you were feeding people light. And so I don't come to the conversation without a huge amount of background, huge amount of life experience. That's what I want to tell you. Huge amount. Also, odd things. This little story I was going to tell you was that in 1997, I was diagnosed with a very rare cancer, a Herschel cell tumor that had breached in my throat. It adhered to my thyroid, and it had breached. And I was given 6 weeks to live. And because it already breached into my bloodstream. And I've been reflecting on that this last 2 weeks. Because the first thing I did, you'll laugh, is I went to my homeopath, Catherine Coulter, whose daughter I've had the privilege of finding again after all these years. 2013, Catherine died. And I lost track of the family, who I adored. And now they're back. So the first thing she did, she sent me to a top-level tarot card reader in New York City to see if I was supposed to die or not. Now look, in our modern world, you don't do that, do you? You listen to the doctors. You check, you read Google. You don't have a direct contact with anything. You try to sort it out between your pea brain that doesn't even have enough information to sort out what you're going to buy at the grocery store. So I did. I called Terry. Her name was Terry, and she's in New York. She's hence quit doing tarot card readings. She's retired. And it's 1997, remember? And so she laid out all the cards. I may have gone to New York, actually, because I remember her laying out all the cards. And death was all over the cards. She'd used 5 decks. Death was everywhere. It was unbelievable. And I'm looking, but I know the tarot pretty well. And it was confusing because it looked like I was busy dying alive. And Terry said to me, well, I'd say you're going to die, but you're too busy. That's true statement. And then Catherine Coulter knew about Guelph, Ontario knew about doctors. They aren't there anymore, Japanese doctors. Samurais, actually, that only dealt, Ralph Nader's wife had helped them set up a clinic right over the border of the United States for only people who had tumor cancer and were terminal. So I qualified. But I learned so much. I learned how much the body loves life. I also had electro acupuncture. I learned how much our body is a vibrational electromagnetic system. Don't take me too literally, but basically. And that I registered intelligences of consciousness that live in the biological spectrum that don't live in the etheric section, the spirit world. Not the spirit world like beings, but the energy world, let's put it that way. But I found for the first time body intelligence. I also lost it. I lost while I was in it, I was aware of it. But once I was well, because I just didn't die, but I tracked it. I tracked a lot. I learned that mucus is a healer, not a killer. I learned that it warns the immunity system that something's wrong, and also is the final thing that you experience when you're getting well. I had a sinus issue forever, so a lot of people's sinus problems are just, the sinuses are just trying to help with the toxicity of the body. So I learned a lot. I became educated. I have other education I've had too. Washington, D.C., when I got offended that nobody was with people who were dying of AIDS. So I'd go in and be with them, sometimes crawling up in their bed and holding them while they died. Because I did a fact check. I found out what my risks were. And I didn't allow what people were saying about the people who had AIDS to stop me from something that I was passionate about. Like if I could have a bear in my RV park, I would. So, but I learned things from being around people that had AIDS. I learned how the immunity system goes wacko. It just can't figure itself out. It goes through fevers and chills and feels dry, and it just goes crazy. It goes crazy. It's trying to fight something. It's like a computer that can't find the program. So I learned about that. I was with my grandmother and my mother at their death. I learned about how what it's like when the body starts to shut down, when it starts to say, I can't go any further. And it begins to give up the ghost, literally. Give up the ghost. And then with Saimai, I got the light intelligence that she carries. I could track it. I could move with it. I can move with it because I stay connected to her. It's her intelligence that she has it's not her intelligence. It's the intelligence she has access to. I think it's why people sometimes stay connected to me, because I'm a linkage to an intelligence that some people have, most of humanity's forgotten. So because we're one soul, human, we link up with each other. And because we link up with each other, like in Damanhur, Italy, they share intelligence. Because in the shared intelligence, by linking up to different beings that carry different access points to different modalities of existence, we have access to more. It's like being in a library. You don't try to read every book, do you? You're just glad the books are available to you. Capiche? So all that came to my aid the last 2 weeks. All of it came to my aid. I could figure things out that I didn't require an outer authority to tell me was real. And I had people that I checked it out with. It always makes me laugh because my doctor is a longevity doctor. And one of my 3+1 that just got adopted by me because he happened to be around when the crisis started. But the interesting thing about a longevity doctor is it knows what kills the body. And it knows how to keep it alive longer. I mean, what are the odds? And she was my partner. She was my partner. So I'm just gonna trace a couple of things in my experience. I'm not allowed to be an authority. I don't have a degree. I only have a degree in life and life experience. Boy, what's that buy you? And the world and the reality of separation buys you people looking at you weird and thinking that you don't know your ass from a hole in the ground when your evidence chain feeds out 50 years behind you. So here's what I know I went through. I went through my chest closing down on me, my throat closing down. I went through experiences I've never had physically. I felt like I was going to be suffocated from the inside out. Not like when somebody puts their hand over your face like George Floyd. I felt like I was being suffocated from the inside out. I felt like I was being dried up. I was scared. I went through 2 days that I don't remember because I just kept doing what my longevity doctor told me to do, which is only track the symptoms. Don't track anything else. Don't let anything scare you, not your temperature, not your oximeter. Just follow your symptoms. and stay in your protocol, which is all I did. I was like in a mantra. I was like in a deep meditation, deep, deep, deep meditation. I took my body down to a still point. The reason I created the creation exercises, the reason they were channeled to me, was so that panic and fear and doubt are the greatest enemies a human being can have. They can't hear themselves. They can't trust. They're driven to connect to authorities outside themselves because their inner authority has been squashed. But I have an inner authority, the one I'm bet on. It isn't stronger than me. It is me. And I've done it by tracking and paying attention. And I often, in a reading, for those of you who've done readings with me, I'll say I'm suspicious of something. But then after a while, reading you all, oh, wow, that really is what's going on. It starts to track. It makes sense to people. It isn't on Google. It's inside you. So then on Saturday, I worked. I did a class. Weak but fun. And of course, being in a unified field is amazing because you don't even have to be all right yourself because you're held by the field. It's a beautiful thing when human beings are in unity with each other. And then I did 3 readings. I felt rived. What I didn't know, in hindsight, that I was probably having a cortisol spike, where you feel fantastic, and then the next day you completely crash. And I have been crashed since Sunday. Really unbelievable. And then on Monday, I went to get my test to prove whether I had COVID or not. And then I went, was that Tuesday? Then I came back home and crashed. And then on Tuesday, my adopted doctor asked me if I could drive to get a shot because I was doing that immunity thing. I felt like I heard the people I was with that had AIDS. It was crazy. I was in chills and fever with no temperature and skin burning and oh my God, it was, I could tell my immunity system was trying to figure something out. It was having a bitch of a time. This is prior to the shot. And I called my beloved longevity doctor and basically she explained that with the COVID virus, a lot like AIDS, honestly, at least symptom-wise, not the same printout, but at least what happens to the immunity system. That the whole point is the immunity system can't figure out what it's supposed to do. And you don't want it to spike a fever because then it's fighting the whole body, much like AIDS or autoimmune disease. So basically the supplements that were controlling the body's struggle was helping it stay. And for those of you who've seen the accordion, Jackie, I need to post that. I stayed stable because the supplements held me in the middle ground, where I wasn't spiking and it wasn't going down or up. I was like this. And then I went on Tuesday because Chris asked me to, and I got my shot. And instantly it was as if my body got an information that allowed it to start to sort. And then I stopped having cortisol spikes. And then I realized that I had spent 5 days using my adrenal system to get up, to walk my dog. I had been using my adrenal system because I have mind over matter. I do. Not quite like the masters of the Far East, but at least the masters of the Far East and I could have a decent conversation. And I realized this intensity to keep level, to take my pills, to let myself sleep, to walk Lily long enough for her to poop, to feed my dog. I would feed my dog, take my pills, make my drink, and go to bed for the day. But somehow this shot created an equilibrium, a balance point in my immunity system, and I could crash. I could finally be in adrenal fatigue. Isn't it interesting? All these years we talk about adrenal fatigue as a problem. It is a problem. But let me say I was grateful for the adrenal fatigue because it meant that they had held out for 2 weeks, helping me stand up, helping me function, helping me drive. Those little creatures had been there for me, those living beings. I know, you just call them things, inanimate things. It's one of my notes. It's one of my notes. Can I read my note now? Okay. Yes? No? I can't hear you. We're going to do a group. Jackie figured it out, but I'm still in repair, so we're not doing it today. So anyway, I put a picture up because I'm not allowed to advertise anything. I'm not medical. However, in that image, there's a small bottle and a large bottle. A large bottle costs a little under 50 shipped, and the little bottle cost 40. And I met the person who makes the product of the bigger bottle because I needed to have. Thank you, Yvonne. Because the bigger bottle is more refined. So the first thing that I often say to people is find products that are highly refined, have higher energetic value, vibrational value, because a little goes a long way. And it's very safe because in the worst of it, I was taking 5 tablespoons an hour. So it gives you an idea of it's not going to hurt you. And then other people would say, well, what about this and what about that? And I want to say something very clear, and you take it for its worth, is that we are the animators. We animate. We give things power. We animate. I went around, I put out all my essences. I actually put them in my sink. I put drops of them in my sink. And I thanked all my essences because I wanted to be near the primordial mother. I organized all the pills in 2 boxes so that they were, and labeled them and put them by my bed, all the things I was to take. But I did it as if they were my friends, as if we were in this together. They were not inanimate to me. They were not strangers. They were not things trying to fix a thing body. Ugh. They were real, and I'm real, and my body's real, and we're all in it together. And I put on my Saphagia music. I wish I could remember the name of it right now. There's a great one. It's 174 hertz, which is for viruses and fevers. It's something stasis by source vibrations. I think I'm allowed to say that. So I was in an animated reality. So there are products that I hear people recommend that they really like, and it's because you have a working relationship with them, because they're living beings. Hello, hello, hello. This is a living being. This is a living being. And what's so beautiful about it and other products is it's more alive than other products because the people that make it pay attention to the vibrational frequency within which it's created. That's pretty factual. Honest to God it is. So one of my notes is if you have products that are for you, then you've animated them. You have a working relationship with them. So everybody was out to make sure I made it. Everybody. Everybody, including all the people. Vicky that made me my food so I could eat. Wash my clothes. Sarah that came down and filled my water jugs. Monica, they came and hung a wreath for me, a beautiful wreath. I'll take a picture and post it. And filled the gas can. I live in an RV, those of you that don't know. A beautiful RV. Fancy, fancy lady. And let's see if I can turn her. Hold on, let's see if I can do this. There she is. That's the beginning of her. That's the door open. And that's the back of her. She's very fancy. She's a lady. Dakini is her name. She's a fierce lady, as a matter of fact. So animate your world. Animate it. Don't be adult. For God's sake, don't be a human adult, please. Animate your world. You know, touch your iPad and thank it for holding your notes, because you know you wouldn't remember them unless you had written them down yesterday, because your oxygen deprivation is still affecting the processor of my logical mind. It's still, even talking has worn me out. And yesterday I really felt like I was coming over the edge of it. So, let's see, making my notes. All right, I'm going to read this to you from my notes, because then I have a last thing I want to share with you. Make your life about building your immunity system now. Today, start. I have 2 products that I stand all the time. One is the tall creature in the picture, and the other one you'll see an image of it in the next few days, because I keep my nasal passages protected, and I keep my immunity system rudimentary built, sustained in the other product. That's the simplest. That's the simple. And then find out what your biological magic is. You have a biological magic. Mine's homeopathy. I do really well with homeopathy. Other people do really, really well with essences. These are very important, because the medications in the allopathic world deplete the body, suppress the system to produce a temporary cure, but it also damages the body, a lot of it, most of it. Essences, homeopathy, naturopathy, all those things build back the natural system of the body. So deal with it. Diet is harder, especially in cities, because I'm lucky. I live in a part of California where I have access to almost all organic food, but not everybody does. So figure out your biological magic. If you're doing creation exercises, do craving what biological magic is for me is. Open up your inner intelligence. Come on, let's do this. Open up that inner intelligence. So Saima says, you can look her up, saima-llc.com, I think. Saima says we're in the age of consciousness. And I've dealt with this woman a long time. I'm no longer a master teacher because I do my own work, and she's doing her own work, but boy, do we partner. I'm right in there with her. Whatever she says, yes, ma, I will do, within reason. Like she says, don't eat meat, and I can't make it without eating meat, so I do bone broth and chicken broth. So Simon, but I trust my own inner intelligence and what my system's capable of at the moment and not capable of at the moment. I don't force my system into things it's not ready for. So Simon says we're in the age of consciousness, the age of biology, where biology is our consciousness. This blows my mind, because in 2011, I said to Heather, one of my other doctors, that I could feel the body awakening its own intelligence, that we need to get on its side now. It's figured something out, and we just need to help it. All these years we've had immunity disorders, and we've had, what are those other things? Can't remember what anything's called because I don't live there anymore. Write them down. You know, where you get frightened, you get terrified, whatever that thing is. You know, where you ache, where you have pain, all those things. That was the system trying to work something out, trying to figure out what was going on and fix it. But the biological system has a longer timeline, so you just got to get on its side. Our mind is the source of most of our trouble, all of our trouble, in my opinion, but we won't go that far. It has a system problem. It always looks for what's wrong. It systemically forces us to try to live rather than be alive. It tries to get us to some kind of norm when it's not normal. Our mind tries to judge us. It has a judgment program in there. It's not its fault. It's only picking up off the system that it was born into. It tells you you're not whole. It tells you you're flawed. It tells you you can't be fixed. I mean, et cetera and so on. And I'm doing this book, Mind of Creation. Many people have helped me with it, but finally Electra, who's the director of the LOC Institute, and we're kicking it. We're getting it out. But what really got me after, and we'll see if I can get it to language, is I realized that my spiritual intelligence in my body is my immunity system. Because it kept meeting the virus at the gate. It kept having negotiations. It kept giving the virus information so it didn't have to live in my body anymore. We are in the age of consciousness, the age of biology, where biology is consciousness. Let's see, I repeated myself, I agree. I've been watching since 2011, and I have talked with medical people who also agree. Our bodies are becoming consciously conscious. I recommend you explore what has a body have a will to thrive. What has your body have a will to thrive? And the creation exercise is that first thing. This madness about looking for the truth, when the only real truth is yours, is crazy. Psychologically crazy, I might add. You know what has you thrive. You actually probably know what gives your body the will to thrive. And we're in a time where bodies are having a failure to thrive problem. You have a lot to say about that. I know some of you are in pain, some of you had diseases that are really hard to deal with, but you have your consciousness. You have your mind. Nothing can take that away from you. Whether your body shrivels or falls apart or dies, its consciousness will live. Your consciousness will carry on, and your body is not alien to it. Your body is trying to match your consciousness now. Get on its side, please. Okay, I recommend you explore what as a body have a will to thrive, and what might be what you are doing that has a body have a failure to thrive. 95% of that is your thoughts. Because your thoughts lead you to wrong information. Your thoughts don't create an empty space like what happens in the creation exercises that allows new information to rise that's consistent with your biological field. It was a miracle. You can go back and listen to the last Friday. It's a miracle, the things that came together that allowed me to take care of myself at the level I got to take care of myself. It was total synchronic magic. There is synchronic magic. Synchronic timing is when your mind is operating on behalf of life and interested in what has you exist as whole, and not letting the outer world rule your thinking, not letting the outer world dominate, be the authority, which is the last thing I want to talk about. No, not the last thing. I have one more thing. Take this year. I'm going to frighten you, but the virus has already given us the opportunity. She's of the mother. She's doing her ecological thing. She's telling us how to meet her at the gate, how to protect ourselves while she's rampant on the land, just like the flood tells you to get in a boat, for God's sake. And I get to meet her at the gate. But she's also asking for you to do something else. You can use your imagination. It's okay. Try not to listen to me balancing me against traditional truth. I won't hold up. However, I live a magical life and have magical results. And people around me do too. So there you are. Make peace with death. Very simply. This is really real. I'm in a 7-month body of work, and there's a result that's going to come out of this body of work. And that is, you need to meet your maker. You need to figure out what that is for you. You need to figure out what made you, what system of intelligence you're part of. what vibrational configuration you operate in that lets your spirit continue after you're gone. There isn't just one template. You carry the template within you. I call what I'm part of and what I'm biologically and my consciousness is made of is from the realms of the beloved, that which loves this planet and her forms. That's my kingdom. That's who I am when I'm not Tantra Mott, a.k.a. Diane Muriel Spoden, from Tennessee, born in Oakland, California, living in an RV with her dog. Oh my God, there's so much more. Come on. Go meet your maker. Your maker wants you to live. Go find that which you're part of. If you come onto my website, tantramott.com, I'm doing a kick butt realms of the beloved talk, which I'm not going to have here, and I'm doing a kick butt activation because two of the realms of which I'm a part were fundamental in saving my life. But they don't have to be your realms. But through our connection to each other, through our unified field, we can draw from each other's realms. We can draw from the strength of them. Magic. Magic is just that which has not been understood by science. I looked it up. I don't even like Wikipedia's definition. All right, here's the end game. So the one thing I was really crazy in my head about, is taking that test. My doctor, two of my doctors, both of which, all my doctors have a medical degree, but both my doctors, when I asked them why they didn't recommend me taking the test, said because they didn't trust the test. Interestingly enough, it was those two doctors that said to me, had I gotten the results of my test. I mean, doesn't that sort of twist your brain for a minute? So I had a meltdown with my friend Georgia. And I said, what am I going to do if the test, I don't know what to do with the result of the test. If it comes back positive, what am I going to do? I mean, what's it do? It just make you a leper? If it comes back negative, am I going to doubt myself? Am I going to say, God, I wasn't really sick? I was just being, oh, by the way, when I was young, I was hospitalized many times as a hypochondriac. It was only years later they began to understand immunity issues and blood issues. And then I wasn't a hypochondriac anymore, just to let you know. So I have that in my past. I had these fevers of 103, and they'd say nothing was wrong. But I was having trouble being here. My soul, my spirit wasn't too happy in the redactedness of the flesh, the redactedness that the flesh had been forced into here. So all these days I've been going, what am I going to do when I get the result? How am I going to be? I got the result last night. It was negative. And I'm fine. I'm good. I'm really good. And I got to say, I'm so proud of me. I'm not shaken by it. I'm mad. I'm mad. I'm mad that our allopathic system isn't giving us what we need. In fact, it's putting us at risk, in my opinion. Only my opinion. I'm not a medical doctor. But nothing can take the last 2 weeks away from me. Nothing can make me doubt my symptoms and what I went through and what I'm still going through. Nothing. Certainly not that test. And then I remembered what I talked to you about at the beginning of the, and you'll have to deal with it now, won't you? Yep. Over to you. Because we might as well deal with it. We still, even my two doctors that told me they didn't really think I should take the test because it was only 50-50. Even they wanted to know the result of the test. Because that authorities outside ourselves is still so dominant that we don't trust our own symptoms. We don't trust our own intelligence. We don't trust learning what the body needs and following through with it and taking care of it. I'm very clear I could have died last week. And I'm very clear why I didn't. Very clear. And it carries every bit of the symptomology, not to the extreme in some cases. But do we want to wait on the extreme? Years and years ago, before I began my biological walk, when I was totally at the effect, I slept for months. I was ill 90% of the time. It was horrible, up until I was about 54. My poor kids that I had with me, they hardly got raised by me. I was gone half the time. The only thing that ever sorted me was going into trance and deep states of meditation and higher consciousness. But I was still kind of like a dead person walking. I had this amazing talent that held me through all those years. But it was only till I was 54 when I started to embody. So it's going to be hard to mess with me in this area. I've lived it. Really hard to mess with me. But I remembered what had happened out of these two beings coming to, one deliver information, one to show me the future. And I thought, isn't it amazing? All these years, somebody probably knows when I started, I've been talking about this time and how our systems, our cultural systems would collapse and new systems would be born. And I printed out my test and I taped it on my door and I did the following. Remember, I'm a wacko lady with a dog who lives in an RV. What do I know? And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's a system failure. You're just the result of a broken system. But I promise you that I will be on the side of tests that give us what we need, not just are we positive or negative, but gives us what we need, that our needs will be met. Why? Because for me, everything's alive. Everything's animate, including you. Including you. But I found out one thing, that my body and I are in harmony with each other now. We're in unity. We're done. We're working it. I want that for you. Don't have your body be an alien. It's not. It's trying to become conscious. It's trying to become consciously conscious. If you're doing Saima's bioconscious healing, literally go in and transcribe her information. Like we ask you to write the creation exercises out by hand or type them out. Get the information in your cells. Use your own intelligence through the creation exercises. They were designed for this period of time. I don't advertise. I'm not advertising now. They're just people on the call that do them. They're people on the call that are in Ma's work. That's why I'm saying it. Get the information in your body. Transcribe my conversations. Information is the activation right now. You've got to find a way to get it past the memes, the societal norms, what you've been told with no evidence for, what you've been adapted to, what you've been, how your consciousness has been suppressed, how you can't trust yourself. Any information that resonates for you, get it down, write it down. I have a thing called Tapatalk, which I've generated as a vibrational field, within which the higher vibrations can saturate ourselves in the electromagnetic field. But that's way too much to get into today. So thank you Thank you for walking with me. Thank you, Ann Terrell, for sending me the video of the Irish Sea. Thank you, my friends, for helping me. Still need help. Still not back. Probably go to bed today, but I'm better. But I'm following the symptoms. I have adrenal fatigue. It's very clear. My adrenals shut their worth, making sure I stayed functional while I was ill. Learn the miracle of your body. I have these 4 chapters I'm trying to write because I want you to know your biological field is miraculous. How your solar plexus and your parasympathetic nervous system and your sympathetic nervous system, they're that balance point. That parasympathetic nervous system is your meditation temple, and that sympathetic nervous system is your warning system. Come on, let's be in the mysticism, the magic of our biology. Let's tell your body not only that you love it, which is fine, but tell it you'll learn it. Tell it that you're there, and thank you. My God, it's kept you upright under bad air, bad water, bad food, toxicity galore, sugar addiction. Do you know you're still standing? And now it's coming awake. I love you. Thank you. There are people I didn't acknowledge today that have been so supportive and so precious, just because I can't get it in my head right now. But I love you all. And onward, okay? Onward. If you never come back on here, never listen again, don't make me your person. You be your person. But if you ever show up again, it'll be good to see you. Namaste.